Welcome back, friends. Thanks for checking in on our 450 Honda Cafe project. Got the frame detabbed, ground down, ready to go. We're just waiting on our tank and seat, which is en route today, Saturday. Should be here Monday, Tuesday at the latest. Once we get that, we can get it set up here, get it mocked up, and see how long we're going to need to make this rear loop, which won't be too much of a problem. I want to run not so much a fender but a rock guard here because I don't want debris and stuff flying into my carburetors. I've seen a lot of these bikes that have absolutely nothing back here at all with open velocity stacks. So obviously those things get trailered everywhere. They never get ridden. This one's going to get ridden a little bit, so we're just going to put something back there. I came across this cherry fender today at the salvage yard, and this is a 425 tire on here, and it's going to be perfect for what we want to do. Now, once I get the seat on, I'll be able to make a decision whether I'm going to run a fender or not. Of course, we're going to cut this. It's not going to be this long, but we're going to have a rock guard up here, and I don't know if we're going to run a fender to the back or not. I kind of like the looks of just the seat and a license plate and the light back there, but we're going to leave this intact until we get it here, and then decide if we're going to chop this fender off and just use the front part of it for a rock guard or the whole fender. I'll get these brackets off here, and I don't think we're going to leave it chrome. I think it's going to end up being painted, but either way, there's not any body work to be done on this. It doesn't have a scratch or a dent on it. I've seen a lot of these bikes without any type of rock guard here, and I guess that's cool. They probably don't, ride those things very much, but even with open velocity stacks, that just seems crazy. You're just chunking debris in there. So I want something here. We're gonna have to put a brace across here to mount the fender to as well. So no biggie, but we do have to wait on the seat before we get there. Set of Clubman bars are here, so the next time you see the bike, it is gonna be looking more like a cafe racer with the appropriate handlebars on it and the appropriate tank and seat. Get the side covers on it and it'll start looking like something. Front fender, we're going to use a standard front fender, and we're going to cut this and put a bead in it. And I still have some decisions. I may make it even shorter. We'll just see. And so I'm trying to figure out, what am I going to do while I'm waiting? I'm waiting. We got to get some other things, and the elephant in the room has been that. What are we going to do with this? So since I got bored the other day, started looking, I said, well, let's take a quick peek. I pulled the intake or the exhaust valve cover off. What's that? Where's the rocker arm? Oh, there it is. It's up in there. It's not even attached. I did kick this motor over, and it was, it rotated, and I said that's fine because we're going to go through the motor anyway. But anytime you buy something and they hand you a greasy climber manual and said, yeah, we just put a new timing chain in it, you best start looking around and see what else is going on, because there's some problems here. Also, I was looking on the advancer unit. It's missing this clip right here. The other thing is I have to do some investigating. Was that hole round when it started, or was it oblong? If it was round when it started, this one right here I'm talking about where this pin comes through, then this thing is worn all to hell. Now we're going to put electronic ignition in here, but I think we still need this advance unit in here. We'll see. I'll let you know. I talked to a guy that can check out my motor for me. He's a retired mechanic, works out of his garage, 50 bucks an hour. It's going to be 2 to 3 hours. So that's 150 bucks just to say what I already kind of know is this thing's got to come apart, which I was going to do it anyway. So no sense to spend the money there. And I'm going, I'm pretty sure I can get this bitch apart and back together by myself. So that's what we're going to do. Gonna need a couple tools though. Gonna need a special tool to pull off the flywheel. got that, 16 bucks. Gonna need another special tool to get the oil pump off, oil pump locking nut. That's this tool, 16 bucks. Got them both at the Common Motor Collective on the web at common-motor.com, which is kind of a cool setup they got down in Houston. You can rent bench time, have someone help you if you're not mechanically inclined, maybe kind of teach you what you need to know about tuning up your bike. Kind of a neat deal. They have a YouTube channel, check them out. So today's project is we're going to get the top end off this motor. The other thing that you need to get this done is you're going to need a chain breaker, and that should be no problem since we're bicycle guys here. We got chain breakers for that. Break this chain. Going to get our 3/8 impact. We'll get these head bolts off, get the head off, get the cams out, pull the jugs, and see what we got. I'm kind of excited to start getting some of this polishing done while I'm waiting on other things to do. And the next time you see this, we will have the motor apart, so stand by. And we're back as promised. Took about 30 minutes. Get the head and the jug off, it's not a big deal. Got 8 bolts up here. You got to break the cam chain with the little chain breaker, so that's not a big deal. You can let it fall down the case if you want to. If you're going to get out later, you can snag it with the magnet, so don't worry too much about that. Here's cylinder head. So we're going to send it out. Probably do a valve job, see what else needs to be done to it. Got the cylinder off. Here's our pistons. Left piston, right piston. This one, a little concern there. It's not gouged, it's just galled ever so slightly. The rings are stuck here. The cylinder itself doesn't look too bad. In amongst all the crap that I bought, there's a couple timing chains, or cam chains. One was the old one. One is new old stock, and it's so old that the grease on it is just junk. So it looks old, but it's not. It's actually brand new. So clean that up and reuse that. But I think there's a brand new one that they put in this thing. Found a set of rings also, standard set of rings. I'm not sure. I don't have my inside micrometers anymore. It'd be nice to be able to just hone this thing and put a set of rings in it and go down the road. That'd be great. So we'll send this stuff to the machine shop. Go ahead and let them get working on that. These pistons here came out with had Teflon wrist pin buttons in it, so you didn't have to dig out the snap rings in the side. Just pull the buttons out and push the wrist pin through. Set up here in tubs. Got our camshafts. We're going to need to have those looked at. I marked which one was exhaust, which one was intake, just because I haven't taken one of these apart before. We have one that is suspect, and I think that's just mainly because, right here, we're going to have the camshafts checked out, and the what I consider the rocker arms. They don't feel too bad. They're certainly better than the ones that they had in here, because I found them in a box of crap, and I mean they're gouged out, and this just goes in the scrap metal pile there. So anyway, there you have it. We have the top end off. We can start making some progress here. We can send these parts off, see what the damage is, if any, get the machine shop to start working on them. You don't need any special tools for any of this stuff, just a chain breaker. And let me tell you guys, don't be too scared about this. It's really pretty simple. Worst case scenario, if you don't think you can get it back together, just keep all your stuff separated. Here's my top end stuff. This is stuff off the head. Every screw, washer, whatever, it's going to stay just like this. Worst case is you just walk it into your buddy that knows how to work on these old things. And trust me, every town has a guy that's 60 years old that used to mess with old Hondas. And as long as you got all the parts, he'll get it back together for you. Order a new gasket kit, hand it to him, and say, "I'm lost," and he'll probably be more than happy to help you at a reasonable price. So next step is, we'll probably do that tomorrow. We're going to split these cases and just take a look at the tranny, make sure the transmission's good, the clutch is good, and everything, and put it back together and let it, clean it up, you know, put it back together and let it sit while we're awaiting these parts. So when I get that lower end together, well actually when I get it apart, I'll give you a holler and let you know what it looks like. Stand by. Okay, we've got the cases split now. We can get a good look at the motor. Didn't see anything of any great concern other than it's just nasty as hell. Yeah, that's a blue rag down there from where I've got the drain plug out, so don't freak out, I didn't have that in there. But there was just a lot of nastiness in here. I didn't see any parts except one tab off of this locking ring here, and that's for the oil filter. Talk about that in a minute. But transmission looks good, didn't see any teeth missing, have any sharp edges, it looked pretty good. Crank looks good from what we can tell. We're going to have to disassemble it a little farther to see what we got. It's just filthy. So we'll get it all cleaned up. But the guys that owned this previously didn't take real good care of it as far as maintenance or anything. But the cases aren't cracked and everything seems to be working, so that's good. Like I said, when I bought this, the motor spun over, and that's all I cared about. I just didn't want a locked up motor, and I couldn't see any cracks on the cases. So we were taking it all the way down, didn't matter. Now if you're thinking that getting it to this point might be a little too much for you, it's kind of out of your comfort zone, go to the Common Motor Collective YouTube channel. They're disassembling this motor. It's only 8 or 9 minute video, but it'll get you there. And just keep all your parts together. And you know, if you find out you can't get it back together, just get everything cleaned up, take it over to one of your buddies, or there's always somebody in your town that knows how to put these things together, and as long as you have all the parts, it'll be good. Well, let me show you what I did find. And as I said earlier, you will need a couple special tools. They don't cost much. You can find them anywhere from $10 to $15. This is your oil filter wrench. Put it on a extension. It fits on this special nut here. You will not get it off because this goes in here like this, sits in there like that, and there's no way to get it off without that special tool. So just go ahead and you're gonna have to buy one of those. What we did find when we were in there is behind that nut is a lock ring with locking tabs. There's one little locking tab missing, found it down in the bottom of the crankcase, but most importantly, none of these tabs were locked over. So eventually, if someone would have just changed the oil and set the valves and adjusted the cam chain and all that stuff and got this thing running, eventually the oil filter would have ended up coming loose. Also, this is your oil pump here. We've got it all cleaned up nice, but it's held in by 2 bolts. And here's one here. And once again, it has a locking tab, and that's just the way it sat in there, just like that. Tabs weren't locked over. So oil pump would have ended up coming apart and causing all kinds of problems to the motor. Other than that, everything's pretty good. This thing is pretty easy to take apart. Like I said, if you'll go check out that video on Common Motor Collective, there's some bolts in the bottom, there's a few bolts in the top. You can keep them all, you know, in order if you want to, but I just threw all mine in a bag and marked them. You're going to need your another special tool to get your engine stator off and rotor, and this is the rotor tool. It's best to just spend the 10 or 15 bucks and it'll pull this thing off in just a nanosecond. It helps if you got an air impact too, but it can be done manually. Now your alternator stator, which is this here, do not put that in your parts washer or clean it with solvent because it'll probably damage the insulation there. So just use some brake parts cleaner with that, get it all nice and cleaned up. Going to inspect our clutch plates, but I didn't see anything, you know, out of the ordinary. There wasn't really a big trick to getting this thing apart. Matter of fact, if you'll watch that video, it'll be quite helpful. And the only thing that it didn't show that you're going to need to do is you're going to have a your shifter shaft goes through there. It goes from one side to the other. There's a snap ring on one end, on the other side of the motor, the left side of the motor, and then this will simply pull out from this side. And then you're ready to get this thing all apart. Now we got everything else in the parts washer. We're gonna get it all nice and clean. One concern we have is this oil filter cover. Those screws are pretty well rounded off, and we're gonna have to work on that a little bit. So other than that, it's been a pretty easy deal. This is just on the edge of our comfort level, but I think we can do it with the manual and YouTube and some advice from others, but don't be afraid to do it. This is a project you can tackle. And like I said, worst case scenario is you'll take it to your buddy in a box with a bunch of nice clean parts and a new gasket and seal set and say, hey man, can you help a brother out? So that's where we're at. Until next time, you guys hang loose and I'll keep you apprised on our progress. Be safe. We'll see you down the road. Adios.